Okay. Show me.
Hi there guys, welcome back to the Dutch channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. And this video will be about simulators, flight simulators. One in particular, AeroFly RC8. A couple of videos ago I told you there would probably be a new version of AeroFly, and guess what? There is a new version of AeroFly RC8, new version. And in this new version there is more place reserved, more emphasis on multi-rotors. It is still the best airplane and helicopter simulator, but you can now also do real simulator work for multi-rotors in RC8. So in this video I'll show you how to set it up, how to configure your radio for a simulator like this. Yes, my radio looks a bit weird. More on that in a second. And in RC8 you can actually install it without actually paying for it to see if your computer is up for the task, right? It's not the lightest of programs, right? It's basically a game. So your computer has to be able to process that, your video card. So there is a trial version, if you will, to see if your computer can handle the program. And I'll show you how to install that. And actually, let's get right into it. Alrighty, well, the first thing you need to do is actually download the simulator software. And the funny thing is, you need to download a downloader for it first. Don't worry, it's very simple. Actually, the entire install process is very simple. So that's a good thing, of course. Now there is a link in the description of this video to the downloader. And I've already gone ahead and downloaded it. It's over here. I'm using Chrome as my web browser, so my downloads end up over here, as you can see. So it's called AeroFly RC8 installer en English.exe. It's an executable. So you go ahead and click that, and my computer asks me if I actually do want to install or run this program. Yes, I do. Yes. There we go. Okay, so what you are now actually doing is selecting where the files you are going to download end up. So you are now not selecting the install directory. I hope this makes sense, but you are going to be downloading the files. Right, and the default location is Documents AeroFly 8 Instaladas. Okay. You can obviously select some other directory, a directory of your choice, and then hit next, and that'll start the download process. And depending on how fast your internet speed is, this will take a while, right? You don't have to stick to it. You can go and do other things. But it's around 6 gigabytes, so it's a pretty big program, pretty big installer, right? So after that download has run its course, you end up with 5 files. The installer itself, and this is actually really the installer, an exe, an executable. Your computer might not display these extensions, that bin and exe, so you'll just probably only see AeroFly RC8 set up and 4 data files. So 5 files in all, that's what you end up with, and that's your installer. And so far it was pretty easy, right? And I'm happy to say that the rest of the process is also very simple. You simply go ahead and double click that setup file. And this time the computer is going to ask you what the language of the setup procedure will be. Okay, I'm gonna pick English. There we go. Yes, I accept. Okay, and blah 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 blah. Install. Okay, So it's gonna be installing the program itself, and again this will take a while. It's a pretty big program, obviously, but there's no weird or unusual questions, and you'll just have to sit through this install progress, and after this you'll end up with two files actually. Okay, so after a few minutes you end up with two new programs on your Windows desktop. Yes, this is a Windows simulator. So this is the first one, AeroFly RC8, start in a VR mode. So yeah, you can use this simulator in VR mode, so with a Oculus Rift for instance. I don't have an Oculus Rift, so I'll be using this version of RC8, but again, it's actually fun. Nice that you are offered the opportunity to run this program in VR mode. Okay, so AeroFly RC8, here we go. Now, at this point, I haven't paid for this program. I've simply downloaded it and installed it, right? I haven't entered any registration code at all. So this is what you end up with if you simply download it and install it. And yeah, there's this click here to activate AeroFly RC8. So if you end up buying it, you can then activate it by clicking this button over here. But yeah, you can test the software to see if it actually runs on your computer. Now it is restricted, so if you don't pay for it, it is restricted. Obviously, you will only have one aircraft. This PT-40 looks a bit like an well, it's an old style of airplane. Doesn't matter at all, it's an airplane. And you'll have one scenery, one airfield, and that'll suffice. Of course, you'll be able to see if the program actually works on your computer. To get it to actually work, you'll obviously need to set up a controller, right? A radio. Now I'll be using this here radio, the NV14 Nirvana from FlySky. And no, it won't have this weird appendix. I've made that to be able to mount a camera above my sticks, so I can show you what I'm actually doing, right? Well, this is simply a 3D printed piece I designed myself, and maybe I'll do a video about that. But there is actually a link to this radio without this weird appendix in the description of this video. Check it out. This radio works very well in simulators. I use this radio for all the RC simulators I use. So first thing you want to do is set up a model in the radio. So let's go and do that. All right. I have already set it up obviously to make this video, but I'm going to show you how mine is configured. It is a simple 4-plane setup, 4-channel setup, sorry. And I've made all the inputs over here. Now the important thing is, and that goes for all 4 channels, the 4 control channels, is that you have to set a weight of 50% and an offset of 50%. I couldn't get it to work otherwise. So the entire output curve is shifted 50%. Don't ask me why, this simply works, and I had to do this to get this to work. Your radio might be different in the way you set these things up, but most radios will have a way of setting the weight or the output level and an offset. Both will have to be at 50%, and then you're good to go. And you only need to set up 4 channels. I've set up a couple of switches, but you don't need to try things. A basic setup only needs 4 channels, and that's what you have over here. Right, so that's your radio setup. And with this radio I only need a USB connection, and here's the USB port of this radio. I simply hook it up to my computer, and in Windows you can use USB devices as joysticks, right? And this radio is recognized as a joystick, so that works out very, very nicely. Alright, so we then hit start. And obviously in the program we'll have to configure our controller. And let's have a looky. Scan for new controllers. And deviation gamepad. And that's apparently what the program sees my flight controller as. Configure. And I'll pick the first one over here. A radio type. You can use a normal joystick or a gamepad in Icarus RC AeroFlight. Okay, next. Okay, and we're gonna move all sticks and switches that we've set up around. As you can see, everything works. And I have a couple of switches set up, and again, that's not really necessary to get things working. But you can. That's it, and we do a next. Center all controls, and next. And please move the left stick up, there, to the right stick up and to the right. And that's basically it. That's everything you need to do. And obviously do a simple check, but essentially you shouldn't have to do any reversing or other setup in your radio or in the program to get things started. You can do things like a retractable gear and flaps, and you don't need to at this point. So simply hit finish and OK. And that should leave us with a flyable model. And yeah, this, I'm not sure what this is. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but sometimes the program reverts back to the main menu. I'll have to talk to AeroFly about that. Maybe it's because of one of the switches I've set up in my radio. Who knows? I haven't looked into that too much yet. But you can see that this actually works. Which is nice. And I'm sure you'd agree that the setup process is pretty simple. Download, install, and the radio setup process is very streamlined. You don't need a dongle. In previous versions of AeroFly you sometimes needed a dongle depending on the radio you had. On my previous Vitaber radios I needed a dongle because those radios didn't have a USB port. But with modern radios, especially with the one I linked in the description, you'll have a USB port, and this works out tremendously easy. And you might be wondering why I call this D simulator. Well, I've tried basically all simulators, really. Especially the normal airplane fixed wing simulators, I've tried them all. And other than this one, all others are more or less games. Now don't get me wrong, it's better to run a simulator. Again, all other simulators are more or less games, but it's still better to run those games than nothing at all. But if you want to have a real simulator worthy of the name simulator, you'll end up with AeroFly, this RC8. It's simply the most realistic. With the other simulators, if you are at a point that you think, well, I can actually fly, you probably aren't. And with AeroFly, if you end up at a point that you can take off and land and do whatever you want to do with the airplane, you will probably be able to do so in real life as well. The only real difference in real life will be that you will be more nervous. But the skills you will then have. Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate. Okay, so this is a new version, right? So maybe it's normal to expect a few bugs. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame that it reverts back to the main menu now and again. Oh well. Maybe it's a known bug. Again, this, yeah, okay. Maybe it actually goes away once I activate it. Could be. Could be. That would be nice. But at least it works, and again, you'll be able to assess if your computer can handle this program, and if your radio, if you already have a radio, actually works with this simulator. It's a nice way to be able to check that without actually buying it. Right? Okay, so I'll do more videos about this simulator, and if you have questions, hit me up a comment down below. Maybe I'll include it in a future video about this program. Don't be shy. Again, if you are left with questions, don't hesitate to hit me up a question. I'll be happy to answer you or address it in a future video. Again, I hope this video was helpful, and catch you on the next video. Bye bye. There, another happy landing.